Welcome to Subspace Transmissions. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Cam.
Cam, on the latest podcast, we are talking all about Star Trek Discovery Season 1. And
we did, yes.
Really how it stacks up versus the other inaugural seasons of Star Trek throughout the franchise.
All gems.
Well, you say that, but why don't we have a little bit of fun with this? Why don't we actually give our own thoughts about the first seasons of each individual series? And we're going to be graded on a curve. If we give like a grade for an A, that means just in respects to other Star Trek series. Because for me, personally, I would put a show like The Wire or The Sopranos or A Deadwood. I'd give them all A grades for their first seasons. I don't know if that necessarily applies to one Star Trek Enterprise, for example.
What?
I know, it's shocking, but
it's baculatastic.
Let's trademark that. Okay, that's the new name of our Subspace Transmissions podcast.
That's right.
But going forward, why don't we just go in chronological order?
Sure.
Star Trek, the original series, when you rank it among all the other Star Trek series, if you have to give it a letter grade, Cam, what letter grade do you give that?
I would give the first season of the original series an A-.
A-.
Yes, and the only reason I don't give it a full A is because I would give that to season 2.
Okay.
So I think of like season 1, we're not quite at prime original series, but it's an A-. Like it is close. We have a bit of a bumpy start. There's some, duds in there, like Mud's Women, for example, or The Enemy Within. But with episodes like City on the Edge of Forever, Arena, Space Seed, just it goes on and on. There's so many great episodes, like so iconic. Even episodes that are a little bit goofy, like, say, Shore Leave, are hugely iconic, and fans will recognize them in a second, especially the White Rabbit. Right, Tyler?
I don't want to think about the White Rabbit too much, nor do I want to think too much about what was going on in McCoy's fantasy throughout that episode.
An old man's fantasy.
Yeah, well, for me, I would have to actually put the original series, I would give it a solid A, because yes, you point out there are some lows, but I can't think of another first season that has so many gems strewn all about it.
And not just gems, but like classics of television.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, the Balance of Terror.
Yeah.
That's one that you did not mention.
Right.
Another one would say Carbonite Maneuver.
Sure, Devil in the Dark.
Yeah, there's just so many to like point at and jump to that I'm like, okay, I think we have way more than the fill that we deserve based on maybe what comes next. Because, Cam, why don't we jump over to Star Trek The Next Generation? Ooh. If you have to give this one a letter grade, what would that be? And you're a relatively easy teacher. Sure,
yeah, I would give it a D.
D.
Yes. What keeps it out of the, like an F is that there are episodes like Conspiracy or Data Lore, or even the first episode, Encounter at Farpoint, is not bottom of the barrel level. Like, it introduces Q, it's got good stuff in it. So to me, like, an F to me is like a throwaway season. Like, do not even regard this season.
Okay, but for me, I have to say, if we're just ranking it not through television history, but based on Star Trek history, this would be the one and only throwaway season for all of Star Trek. So for me,
How dare you with justice.
Or a code of honor. Yeah. But that's just it. We can think of way more stinkers of episodes in Next Generation, which is why I have to give it an F in this case. You mentioned Data Lore. You mentioned Conspiracy. I thought the Neutral Zone was okay. Yeah. But beyond that, I'm not digging this season.
When the bow breaks, Tyler. When the bow breaks.
Up the long ladder, Cam.
No, that's season 2.
Oh, yeah. We got the Riker with the beard.
Yeah.
And that's all I really want to recall.
Right.
But, of course, Encounter at Farpoint, I would only rewatch that just as a point of curiosity, just to see where everybody started off. I don't think it's a particularly great or compelling episode aside from the Q stuff.
Sure.
Which, Cam, let's be honest, the Q stuff's pretty damn awesome in that. That might be the highlight of all of season 1.
And I will say season 1 also does get a number of the characters pretty nailed down.
Like, in a Q, that Q episode where they stab Wesley with a bayonet, they have him nailed down there, right?
That's also why I got a D over an F. It gave me what I always wanted.
Yeah. Well, why don't we mosey on over to Deep Space Nine? This is where it gets interesting because I think for me, Deep Space Nine is actually my favorite Star Trek series.
Sure.
So it's kind of tough to look at where it started and you're like, oh, it could have been so much more. Overall, I just can't give it a B. Despite the fact that I know where it's going, I would actually have to give it more of a, well, let's say a C C minus. I'll
Right.
I'll commit to a C here because the situation is that as much as I love Duet and as intriguing as the world building was in Emissary, what really stands out to you in season 1 Deep Space Nine?
The finale in the hands of the prophets is fairly strong too.
Yeah.
Like it definitely is paving the way for a good season.
If you're really into Bajoran politics, which
And I am.
I am as well. I don't think it really captured most Star Trek fans.
Right.
But, I mean, to me, the episode I keep going back to that really exemplifies my issue with Deep Space Nine is Progress. For those who don't remember, which is pretty much everyone out there, Kira helps a Bajoran farmer. And the whole time I'm just like, why am I watching this? Although I do have one little hidden gem in there, Cam.
What's that?
Do you recall what it is?
Move Along Home.
Move Along Home.
Yeah.
That is, I know most fans absolutely loathe that episode.
Including this one.
Yeah, just a bit of a hidden, like...
Hidden what?
Not a hidden gem.
It's like the hidden turd you accidentally step in.
More like a guilty pleasure, where I can't really explain why I like it, but there's just something in it I find adorable to a certain degree, or I don't know.
Sure.
Hopscotch, guys, look it up. Cam, what
Sure.
about you? What would
I'm
the
going
letter
to chime
grade
in
be?
and say, a C for me.
Yeah.
It has a pretty good, opening episode with Emissary. Again, like Duet is absolutely fantastic, top tier like Deep Space Nine. But I mean, the rest of the season gets bogged down in a way that they would fix the problems, because I think in season 1 they were like, this is a show about the Bajoran culture and the Bajoran people. And so you get some really weird episodes. Like there's the one where like Odo's chasing after like a killer who died already or something. Like a lot of these episodes are just very forgettable, which is, you can't say that about TNG. A lot of those TNG season 1s, they're memorable for all the wrong reasons.
We still ridicule them to this day.
Yeah, the DS9 ones really blend together, and I don't think they'd figured out what a Deep Space Nine episode was yet.
No.
And they would figure that out soon.
Yeah. Why don't we jump on over to Voyager? Because this is an intriguing one, because I think with regards to fans, Voyager has its hardcore fans, but mainstream Trekkers, more of a split opinion on this. But I think season 1 is an intriguing case of what Star Trek Voyager wanted to be. But you tell me first, what kind of letter grade would you hand out to this? And again, you're an easy teacher, right? Yeah.
I'm the one who turns his seat backwards and is like, what up, kids? I think Voyager's a tough one, because I feel like Voyager's fairly consistent in season 1 in a good way. Like the episodes they never feel like there's these huge drops in quality. Like they aren't delivering embarrassments like TNG, but they also don't jump out to me as like, what amazing episodes. So to me, I think it's probably like probably a C+.
Okay.
And that like there are episodes that are totally painless to sit through, other than the Beowulf episode, I think, really. But they don't...
You're such a Grendel, Cam.
But they don't spark like a great passion for me to revisit them either, which is a little damning, which is why I drop it to a C+ versus like a B-.
Okay, to me, I totally give it the B- though, because look, we talked about
on a different day I could be flipped. Yeah,
fair enough, but like we talked about with the original series, there are a lot of duds in that first season.
Sure,
but there are some I would say solid ones. I think Eye of the Needle is pretty awesome.
Jetrel is great.
Jetrel is great.
Yeah.
We also have like cool ones. The introduction of the Vidians in Phage.
Yeah,
and B'Elanna gets like one of her standout episodes in Faces, and I think Caretaker. It's, say what you will about what becomes of Star Trek Voyager and whether it really fulfilled the promise of being lost in space with no resources, trying to create this new crew. Caretaker as a world-building exercise as a pilot, I thought was pretty fantastic.
And the season goes out with a bang with Learning Curve. So let's move on to Enterprise.
Please, let's move on to Enterprise.
I am nicer to Enterprise, I think, than you are.
Okay.
Enterprise was a series that really sucked me in on season 1. Like, I don't know what it was. I can't even put my finger on what it was, and I'm looking forward to revisiting this series once I finish my Deep Space Nine rewatch. And I think for me, I'm going to give it a B-. In terms, like, I think the quality is similar to Voyager, but I feel like I just got a little more drawn into the energy of, like, I feel like season 1 Enterprise has more of an energy to it than season 1 Voyager.
I think maybe you just have way more faith of the heart than I do.
I also like jumpsuits.
Okay, yeah. I just can't... I racked my brain over some of the standout episodes within this the best I could come up with was Shuttle Pod 1. I think Broken Bow was a nice exercise in world building once again, introduction to the characters. But beyond Shuttle Pod 1, I was just like, even the introduction of Shran was like, that episode felt like just such a slog. So for a letter grade, I'm going to have to give this one a C-, because if I have the prospect of rewatching Season 1 of Deep Space Nine versus Season 1 of Enterprise, I got to give it to DS9 just because Enterprise has less that makes me curious about it, about where all the characters started, and just less of those kind of high-concept, fun, standout episodes. There's way more stinkers. I did not like Unexpected, for example. Yeah. I thought Strange New Worlds with the rock monsters was a bit of...
I like that one.
You know what? You're really into camping, so I guess I'll give it to you. But I think Shockwave was actually a pretty good finale.
Yes, definitely.
So I'll give it that, but I'd much rather go ahead and rewatch DS9 Season 1 than I would Star Trek Enterprise.
I can't disagree with you there, and I think that has more to do with the overall mythology of Deep Space Nine for me, in that
curiosity factor.
Yeah, like I'm being drawn into kind of the world of Deep Space Nine, but I think if I'm looking at like a batch of episodes I would like to rewatch, I think I would probably side more with Enterprise.
Okay. So Cam, the big kahuna, the one everyone's talking about.
The animated series.
You took the words right out of, no mouth that I would ever speak.
A+. Trek has yet to rival it.
Well, everyone's talking about Discovery still, and the season just capped off, so why don't we talk about where this one would end up in our overall, letter grading here. For you, Cam?
I give it a B.
A B.
Yeah. For me, it's a solid B, because I think it nails down its cast pretty much as well as any Star Trek series ever. Like, I would put it up against the original series in that regard, where, like, when this season ended, I really felt like I knew these characters in a really exciting way, and I couldn't wait to see more of them. But I do think that the overall Klingon War arc takes it down quite a few points, and some of the twists that I just don't think were execute as well as they could have been.
Yeah,
is kind of the problem.
I think one of the issues here, and this is actually the first time you and I are on the exact same letter grade for any given series, but again, I give it a B. I think they have the characters down. I love the characters more than anything else on the series, but with regards to this serialized storytelling that they have invested in so much, I just don't know how successful it is if you're not telling a story that I find particularly compelling, which is this Klingon War arc, which I found kind of listless for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And it really picked up during the final 2 episodes, except it wrapped up way too quickly. So I'm left kind of thinking, like, what does it all add up to? And that was my big issue with Star Trek Discovery. Is like, I found it very disjointed.
It's a season of moments. Like fun character moments, or episodes like Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. Like, there's all these highlights strewn throughout that are really fun to talk about, and, character lines to reference. But when I look at the whole, at the Klingon War arc, it's kind of weak. It's not offensively bad. Like, it's not like a disaster, but it's not really satisfying either.
And then where does the whole Mirror Universe arc fit in for you? Does that take you a little bit out of this overall serialized Star Trek story that they're trying to tell?
I don't know, because I think the first 2 episodes of the Mirror Universe arc really lifted up to a certain degree.
Yes.
And it really had me excited. And then the latter 2 kind of dragged me back down. But then we were bound with kind of at least the War Without, leading into the kind of the finale. So, like, I think the Mirror Universe is a mixed bag, but I think I fall down more positive on it ultimately. Okay. Yeah.
For me, I just keep going back to that moment in The Wolf Inside where we have that showdown between Burnham and Tyler, that confrontation where he's kind of, the Vogue persona is coming out. I think that is far and away the best moment within Season 1 at this point. My only issue was when we get to the Lorca plot twist, you and I, we were not fans of that, really. I think we're in the minority here, but we just don't think that really worked. And that really kind of soured me on a lot of what I was invested in Season 1 of Discovery.
And it's like, you take a character who's like, let's say like a A- B+ character and turn him into sort of like a C+ villain. Like that's not satisfying.
He's twirling his mustache as opposed to being a morally complex guy who is tortured and traumatized by his own experience in war within the Prime universe. No, it's all just a facade, and all he really wants to do is rule the world. And I'm just like, that's not nearly as interesting as I was hoping.
Not that much more compelling than Admiral Doherty in Star Trek Insurrection, if we're going to talk about...
Anthony Zerbe?
Yeah, if we're going to talk about motivations and all that sort of stuff. I mean, look, Jason Isaacs is far more dashing on screen. I'm sorry, Anthony Zerbe. But, I mean, it's that sort of Starfleet officer gone bad. It's just a mirror universe version of it, which makes him even simpler. We can't even delve into, like, the complicated reasons why they turned on Starfleet.
I know.
So it's like, I don't know.
So overall... The funny part is, if we look at all the letter grades that we handed out, you and I would actually both put Discovery as number 2,
definitely,
right after the original series. So, no matter what our critiques might be of Discovery, we thought it was a pretty dang fine example of Star Trek in its first season, still finding its legs, but finding a way to make it compelling. And I think the key here, and I think what most people are attracted to when it comes to Star Trek, is just ultimately the characters, and they've got the characters nailed. I can't wait to see where they expand in season 2. Let's just hope they get a bit more of a compelling overall serialized story arc going on than this rather inconsequential, wrapped up way too fast Klingon war.
Or at least an Up the Long Ladder 2.